Welcome to the Bowerham Remote Learning Journey. This PowerPoint presentation will give you how we got from the very beginning of having to be prepared for remote learning and how we plan to deliver it in a blended approach. What are the principles that underpin the design of Bowerham's remote learning? We have three areas: the delivery, the design and the drive. So the design, what is pedagogy underpinning the tasks? Teacher design daily and manageable tasks at home and feedback. We've got to make sure that how we design this means it doesn't impact on the teachers teaching in the classroom, but also has the same impact for the children at home. The delivery is what we're going to ask the children to do at home, and we've had to investigate different platforms of which the children will be able to use, but we would also be able to give them feedback. And finally, the drive. How do we get the children to engage with the tasks? How do we communicate? How do we ensure that the children at home get engaging tasks as much as the children do in school? Hence, for us, it's a blended.
Platforms that we chose to work with are Tapestry for EYFS, as they are familiar with this platform already, so it should be quite seamless to turn it into a remote learning. And we have our Showbie for the rest of the school. That will be the primary platform, as it allows for interaction, video calls, feedback, and lots of different ways for children to submit their work. Microsoft Teams will be using in Upper Key Stage 2 as a platform for video calling, for morning calls, end of the day calls, and bringing children into lessons.
The elements of remote learning mean we've got to be able to provide basically Bowerham at home. We've got to be able to be involved with the children through live interaction. We've got to ensure their mental health and well-being. We've got to make sure that they're on track to narrow those gaps and achieve their full potential and targets by the end of the summer. We've got to make sure that they're safe, that those children with SEND have their full provision according to their EHC plan or additional needs plan and IEP. But we've also got to make sure that the children are able to remotely learn with the same infrastructure, the same expectations and the same exciting curriculum that Bowerham has to.
How will Bowerham balance remote learning and in-school teaching? Take a blended approach, and this means that what we're delivering in school will also be delivered to remote learners, so that it is a one-stop shop for the teachers. So the children in school will access the normal classroom practice using elements of Showbie, while the children at home are fully on Showbie.
What does this blended remote and learning and in-school teaching model look like for teachers and for the children? So what we did is we had a staff meeting, we all sat down together and we looked at how we were able to offer the same exciting learning journey for our children while the teachers were teaching it in school, as well as being able to get it at home. The first thing we did was we set up a matrix overview that planned what was going to happen over the next couple of weeks. That would then, in turn itself into a timetable that will be weekly uploaded onto the remote learning area of our school website. This timetable is the planning for the week and is in real time. So for example, on a Monday, a year group might be doing literacy all morning and then in the afternoon doing science. Tuesday, literacy all morning and then in the afternoon doing topic work. If for whatever reason then a child or indeed a family bubble was to not be able to return to school on the Wednesday, they would be able to themselves and the parents know exactly what they would be learning Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but parents and children would also be reminded of what they had learned Monday, Tuesday. So in real term, no child should miss out on being off school for any particular reason at all. That then led to the next side problem, is that how were we going to ensure that this wasn't a bolt-on, that this was the blended approach, and that this was not going to be extra work for our teachers. Therefore, we went into a discussion and a staff meeting with regards to planning.
Okay, so we decided that the best way to do that was to create a document that could translate as planning for the teacher and as a teaching tool. So instead of paper planning, we decided to use a PowerPoint which still incorporated the elements that were on our paper planning, so keeping the Walt and the Wilf and the Mustard and Could and the choice and challenge activities, and then that would be the teacher's planning as well as what would go on Showbie for the children to access their teacher input. Now it could be that the PowerPoint is put up as a teacher input, or teachers may use different online resources such as Oak Academy, Pobble 365, Digimaps, and use links from there, especially at Oak Academy, to use their videos, and then the delivery and feedback would change slightly in the different key stages.
So, for example, if indeed we had a number of children off, our teachers would be able to, from their PowerPoint, do their teach as we are doing through this PowerPoint by recording it, and then the children will be able to listen to the PowerPoint while their teacher teaches it, and then be able to do the work associated, where from their timetable they will be able to see where that work was. For all of our children, that will either be in Tapestry or indeed on Showbie. Showbie and Tapestry enable all of the teachers and all of the teaching assistants to be able to give the children feedback on their work, feedback on whether or not they've achieved the Walt and the Wilf, the must, should or could, whether or not they've recalled the previous learning, or indeed they've achieved their independent challenges. This means that children can also go back over the PowerPoint independently, particularly if parents are working at home also, and they'll be able to keep going back in terms of metacognition, keep going back to the short-term memory, learning and learning until it goes into their long-term memory. In each area, in each department, we have looked at what the remote learning would look like and what the in-school delivery would look like. So, for example, in EYFS, which is very, very specialised and very much about children learning through play, doing skills to develop and areas for development, they would do their remote learning with lots of resources on the timetable, provision overviews and differentiated magical maths and phonics that would be attached to each child, and obviously the feedback would come through the teachers and the parents. And in school we would continue to do the normal classroom delivery, putting all of our resources on Tapestry, but also doing the normal feedback within the classroom practice, but also through Tapestry.
When we go into Key Stage 1 and 2, that's when we get to Showbie. So the delivery will be through the PowerPoints or online videos with the differentiated challenges, or a pre-made teacher video, and we'll also be using Showbie to do video calls for the start and the end of the day. And the feedback is where Showbie is amazing, because the teachers can leave written feedback or verbal feedback, so those different children can access those different means of feedback, and that delivery and feedback would mirror across to remote learning as well, other than the being face-to-face with the teacher in Key Stage 1. And very similar in Key Stage 2, however, we have the Teams element in here with video calls and breakout rooms and children joining the lesson virtually.
So what will the alert levels look like in school? Obviously, originally, when we had this PowerPoint presentation ready, we were talking about 5 stages. This has since changed, and as ever, Bowerham have changed and adapted to the new government stages of outbreak, with medium, high and very high. What we have done is put step 1, 2, 3 and 4. That means that we are very clear on what we are doing in each step for all of our staff and children in school. Step 1 is default, it's normal learning in school. It means that we're not in bubbles. It means that it's normal absence rate, but we would continue, because this is made us really think about how we operate and plan. We would continue doing Showbie and Teams no matter what. So again, no child can ever lose their learning if they're not in school. Step 2 is when some of the children are isolating. We have got most of the children in school, and maybe it could be that some staff are not in school, and we've got bubbles. Step 3 then goes to high absences. This could be a 2-week bubble closure, family bubble closure. It could be a key stage, or it could be the whole school, but this would just be for 2 weeks. The step 4 is total lockdown, with our key worker children being in school and our staff working on a shift of a week on and a week off. So the Bowerham blend means that we're ensuring we are reactive and ready no matter what is happening with our COVID-19. In each year group and in each area, we have made sure that each team is ready to be able to adapt to whatever step we are in, so that at that point we all know what we're doing, we know all of our roles that we are involved in and what we have to do to get there. So the admin team, Mrs. Clark, Mrs. Trotman and Mrs. Hoyle, would at step 1 would all be in school. And these are the work areas that they work on. In step 2, as you can see, they would all be in school, but what we're suggesting is maybe one of them would be at home because they're having to self-isolate. And for example, in this one, it's Mrs. Hoyle, and she would be doing remote. So that would mean by doing remote, I'm just going to get the pointer up. By doing remote here, she would be at home, and these would be the activities that she would do. Now, it could be that, for example, Mrs. Clark is having to work remotely because she is off, and therefore she would do all of that but remotely, and we would hope that Mrs. Hoyle was in school and that would become in school. Step 3 could be that the whole team or 2 of the members of team were working remotely, and again all of that is set up. And finally, the school would operate on a 2 or 3 week working rota depending on numbers in school, and the admin team would work at home for most of it or all of it depending on what is happening.
So in nursery that we have mapped out the different staff members and what they will be doing and following those different steps. So again, in step 1, everybody's in school, that's normal, and the responsibilities in terms of remote learning would mainly be feedback on Tapestry and making sure that planning and provision is uploaded. And then as we move through the steps, different people may be off because they are isolating, and that will be their responsibilities, while the other members of staff are in school continuing with the normal in-school responsibilities. And then as we go up, more and more people, this stage here, everybody would be remote because it would be a 2-week closure, and that they have mapped out the different responsibilities they would be in charge of. And step 4, in full lockdown, we've made it so a couple of members of staff are in school and the rest are remote. And that is the same as we move through.
As we move through all of the stages, what we can say is that while the members of staff are in school, their role is for support with the children and engaging with the children, but actually the actual teach will come into the member of staff that is working remotely, so that all children get the same. So for example, in year 1 and in year 2, we've got Mrs. Wilkerson and Miss Dennison are working remotely at stage 4. They would be making sure all the work's on Showbie. They will be making sure that all of the PowerPoints are recorded. They will be doing the live Showbie and any interaction with the children. But Mr. Thomas and Miss Maguire would be in the classrooms, just making sure the children are all right and getting them access to the platforms, so that no child would feel that just because they are not in school, that the other children that are in school are getting a different teacher and a different teaching. So we've managed to do that at year 1 and 2, and the same with 3 and 4. Where this becomes slightly different in the sense that all of the children will be using Teams. The idea being in stage 3 and stage 4, all children would log on to Teams to do their register. They might have an assembly and a chat with the staff. The member of staff at home would be online all the way through for any questions that the children have, and the member of staff in school would be working with the children on their activities. And at the end of the day, the children again would all go back onto Teams just to finish off their day, to say goodbye and to make sure that they're aware of what's happening the next day. That will be the same in year 5 and in Year 6.
In terms of technology, we have applied for the Getting Help with Technology scheme and are waiting on that to provide some laptops for children at home that may need resources. So in terms of that, we've done an overview. Each year group's done an overview of what technology children have at home, so we know who would need some help, and they've identified all the individual children. We've chosen the platforms thinking about this because they can use these platforms as an app, or they can go in through a web browser, so they should be able to log on most devices. And at the moment, children are using these platforms in school to ensure a familiarity, so that when they go home they are confident with the programs and the switch is nice and simple.
And for parents, have first of all sent out a letter to explain everything that we are going to be doing with regards to our remote learning. We then provided a remote a parents guide, and Miss Gallagher and myself, we did a video to explain all of that, so a simple parents guide, and then we did video tutorials. Mrs Gallagher, Miss Culkin and Mr Box. As you can see, the QR codes there that are linked to our YouTube at Bowerham, or Bowerham YouTube. We also then did a getting started challenge on the Showbie, so that all the children could show their parents Showbie. And as we say, we are doing a drip effect in school, so that the children are constantly using the Showbie, they're constantly being set activities at home, they're understanding that this Showbie isn't something just to do at home, it's to do within the classroom, and it's to do at home if indeed they are off ill, or indeed on isolation, or indeed we're in lockdown. And we have also provided a remote learning promise that helps to support parents for an understanding of what they have to do while their children are at home, the expectation of how the children are to behave while online, and ensuring that they continue with the Bowerham 6 golden rules.
When they are potentially isolating at home or bubbles are closed, there's a question of how will we engage the parents. So for that, we will make sure that our social media is up to date, and any news, events, or anything like that, I'll post it on there. The remote learning lead can contact any children we can't get hold of, or who haven't been accessing their work online. Phone calls, parent app messages and emails to class teacher are also different means to communicate. And also with our Showbie, we are going to send home a parent code so that they can see what their child is doing but not edit the work, so just as a read-only view, so that they can see what their child has been up to and what has been set by the teacher.
And finally, we have put together a remote learning policy with our aims, our definitions and roles and responsibilities, so that is also in our policies, part of the website, in order to ensure that we are doing a policy and procedure, and that all teachers and staff know exactly what the expectation is and how we are going to put all this in place. Thank you very much for listening to